G'day everybody and welcome back to Star Cub Review, and in today's video I am going to talk about the reasons why, in my personal opinion, why I think the new Lords of the Fallen from 2023 is so much better than From Software's, you guessed it, Elden Ring. Yes, I know I'm probably going to cop shit for it, and you know what? I don't care. Because I personally believe that while these two games are extremely well done, I think Hexworks and CI Games Lords of the Fallen is just... I've had so much fun with Lords of the Fallen. It's just incredible the amount of time and effort that I've put into it, and I really enjoy it. But before I get into today's video, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone new to my channel, all the new subscribers so far over the last couple of days. It has been an absolute godsend to see that, and I absolutely am thrilled that people are just tuning in and really enjoying it. And everyone returning to my channel, thanks so much guys, I really do appreciate it. So without further ado, let's get into it. So, why do I think Lords of the Fallen is better than Elden Ring? Okay. One of the main reasons why I think, hands down, is the fact that Hexworks and CI Games have been consistently on top of improvements, updates. Not only that, but improving the gameplay stability, improving graphics, improving visibility, improving the HUD, improving UI, improving basically so many things, glitches, and they've been doing it on a very consistent, regular basis. And not only that, but the fact that and this is number two is another point that I'm trying to get across as well, is the fact that they have added in roadmaps to consistently keep the game fresh and invigorating, with events, adding new weapons, adding new abilities, adding new armors and cosmetics into the game as well, to keep it really consistent and fresh. Not only that, but they've added other side quests, and they've added improvements to the side quests. They've improved their summoning NPCs, NPC quest storylines. They've improved on those and made them easier and more accessible as well. On top of that, they've made it a lot more accessible for newcomers to Lords of the Fallen to get into this game with modifiers from the Masters of Fate update, that the big update that they do, where you can have all these different sort of modifiers into the game. They've done a champions of the arena, or champions of fate, where you do a battle royale against all the bosses in the game. And another one of the biggest ones, is seamless co-op. Oh my god, the seamless co-op in this is absolutely incredible. You can play the game from start to finish, and if your companion dies during it, or you die during it, you're brought back into the fold of the game, but you start right where you are, and you don't get kicked off that current game. You're still in that game till the very end, unless you decide to leave, or the other person decides to leave back to their world. But it's seamless co-op from start to finish. If they die, they just get resurrected back in the point where they last died, and you can keep continuing it. Even with bosses, you don't get kicked out of the whole area and have to do it again. You start from where the boss room is, and it's just so much. I think the co-op in this is so much better than Elden Ring, because Elden Ring, and I know From Software, they have a pattern with all of their Souls games, is you lay down a sign to summon someone in, invasions, whatever. With that though, you can only co-op in certain parts of the game, where it be a boss room, where it'd be a certain area that you can co-op in, but when you get up to a certain part, you've got to then lay down the sign again in order to get past certain areas. And I think Elden Ring and Dark Souls co-op, even Bloodborne's, to be honest, Bloodborne does have co-op, but only to an extent where you just summon someone and then once they've done a boss room, that's it. They disappear. So it's exactly the same with Elden Ring, and I think Elden Ring's co-op is just not as fun as Lords of the Fallen. Lords of the Fallen's co-op is absolutely seamless. It's fun, it's enjoyable, and it makes you more immersed in it when you've got someone playing beside, when you've got someone that's helping you, and you can do the whole entire run of the game, or if you want to do certain sections, completely fine. And the fact that the structured world in Lords of the Fallen is beautifully done. NPCs and the voice actors and actresses are amazing. Very complex, interesting storylines, NPC quest lines. I haven't done them all, but they're really good storylines. As the same with Elden Rings, but the problem I found with Elden Ring is, and all of the Dark Souls games, Demon Souls, Bloodborne, and obviously Elden Ring, is the fact that these games are not easily accessible and are not easily more accessible for newcomers to the genre. And I feel like with it being more hardcore, which I get that, I understand that, I know that these games are hardcore, they're meant to be, but the fact that Lords of the Fallen was labelled as Souls-like, and it does have the difficulty there, but it's fair, I believe. But in the beginning, it wasn't so fair when it first came out, because there were so many glitches, there were so many faults with it. There were bosses, the hitboxes missed. There was so much going on with it when it first launched, and then Hexworks and CI Games got on top of it and started updating and improving, getting rid of those glitches. And over time, they've done so many updates, events, new armors and stuff, and kept it original and fresh, and they're still going. They're still going all the way up until version 2.0. And then we're waiting for Lords of the Fallen 2. But what I love about Lords of the Fallen is that it's now, for newcomers, it's made it extremely more accessible for someone like myself, that when I jumped into it, I could do the modifiers straight up. They improved the hitboxes, they've improved enemy aggressiveness, they've improved and decreased overwhelming numbers in the game when it first came out. And I had it since 2023 when I got it for Christmas, but I hadn't played it until, in my previous video, only, just this year. I jumped onto it with a friend, played it for my first time, absolutely enthralled with it, enjoyed the absolute shit out of it, and now I'm on my second run, enjoying the shit out of it, and doing the other NPC storylines. But also that is, it's accessible, and you feel much more of improvements, and you feel more at ease sometimes playing Lords of the Fallen, because enemy aggressiveness has been toned down. There's been certain things that have changed, but with modifiers you can change their aggressiveness up, down, all that sort of stuff. So it adds more quality of life improvements to it as well. But also the bosses are the bosses are challenging but fair. Some of them can be downright annoying. There are some bosses in this game that are downright annoying, but when you co-op with someone, it makes it so much easier and enjoyable, even using NPCs. to summon. Makes it so much better. But the problem I find with Elden Ring and all of those Souls games is it's not accessible for newcomers to the genre. It's not, because right from the word get-go, it's you're thrust into it, and it can be daunting. It can be very, very daunting. And when I remember playing Elden Ring, I'm just like, I absolutely loved Elden Ring. Don't get me wrong, absolutely loved it. But I have had my fair share of Elden Ring. I've sunk over 150 hours into Elden Ring, and it was overwhelmingly amazing, but very, very tiring. And I haven't even bothered to do the DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree, because the difficulty, and I've seen videos, the difficulty spike for the DLC is just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And I feel like with a game like Elden Ring, Elden Ring should have been more accessible to those sort of to newcomers. But I completely understand, because Miyazaki, his games have always been about, achieving a goal over, with hardships that go with it. But the more you learn the patterns of the bosses and the enemies and stuff like that, you can overcome it, and you get more of an achievement out of it. It's exactly the same with like Lords of the Fallen. You have to get the patterns down pat. There's a boss pattern, and some of it can be grueling. Some of it can be shockingly like, oh my god, I want to pull my hair out. But I found with Lords of the Fallen, it wasn't so much about that, because you weren't constantly pulling your hair out like with the Dark Souls genre, especially Elden Ring. Elden Ring, so many times I left it for several weeks, came back to it, but even then, I think enjoying Elden Ring more with a co-op partner is much more enjoyable. But even then, you can only summon a person in for certain parts of what you're doing, because you're limited in where you can go in certain areas and certain parts. So whereas with Lords of the Fallen, if they go too far out, they just get teleported back to the main person whose world you're in, so they don't know where you are at all times. But also too, you can do the entire game seamless co-op, and not, after you defeat a boss, you get kicked out, you get sent back to your own world. No, like Elden Ring you do, whereas with Lords of the Fallen you don't. Don't get me wrong, people, I love both those games. I really, really do. But for me, personally, Lords of the Fallen gave me quite a enjoyable challenge. It's just really, really fun. And I really am content with the fact that I personally think that Hexworks and CR Games did an amazing job. They've been consistent with, improvements, glitches, nerfing certain enemies here and there, but giving people events on top, different armors, different dyes, different items, different NPC quests, improving those quests, and now, improving NPCs' damage and making them last longer, making them more aggressive, making them more, helpful. Whereas I think with Elden Rings and even Dark Souls in general, the NPCs weren't that helpful, unfortunately. They were for a time when it could distract a boss, but they weren't helpful enough. And I believe with Lords of the Fallen, the NPCs actually are aggressive towards a boss, and it makes it so much more enjoyable to keep them in the fight and stuff like that. So, each to their own. I believe that Elden Ring has a lot of positives, but it has a lot of negatives with it. And one of the biggest ones, I think, is that it should have been more accessible to newcomers. And I feel like with that sort of genre, it's to a niche of people that love that hardcore challenge. And I don't get me wrong, I'm a gamer that likes a hardcore challenge, hence the reason why, I absolutely love Dark Souls and Elden Ring and Bloodborne. But I think I've not revisited any of them after a first playthrough, because of the fact that they are just so time consuming. They are they can be very, very frustrating. And even after some of the games haven't had updates since they were first released years ago. So it's one of those things. But I love them both. But I think Lords of the Fallen is so much better. The world structure, the mythology, the NPC stories. It's crafted brilliantly. They're both crafted in their own way in a brilliant story. And discovering things, item descriptions, and all of that, discovering more of the world. They're absolutely both fantastic. But like I said, Lords of the Fallen is so much better, and I think I completely have just immersed myself in Lords of the Fallen's world, and it's just absolutely fantastic. But not everyone has to take my word for it. Heck, this is just my opinion. But I would love to hear from other people who have played Lords of the Fallen and what they think of Lords of the Fallen, and if they think they enjoy that more than Elden Ring. Or I'd love to hear from people that play Elden Ring what they think of Lords of the Fallen, if they've played it, if they really, really like it. So yeah, please comment and let me know what you all think, and don't forget to click the like button, subscribe, and notification bell to keep up to date with all my content. And don't forget, I've got 2 links below in the description box for my TikTok and Instagram, and I will see you all again very, very soon with another video. Alright guys, ciao.